Welcome to Real Chat with Kat, the podcast that's all about real conversations for real transformation. I'm your host, Kat Polsinelli, professional speaker, MC, and best-selling international author. Here, we tackle the tough stuff, the mud that we all have found ourselves in. We talk about the pivots, the challenges, and the victories that shape our lives and our businesses. From overcoming trauma and finding your voice to navigating life's unexpected twists, we get raw, honest, and open. You'll hear from inspiring guests who share their stories of resilience, healing, and growth. Whether it's breaking through emotional abuse, embracing self-worth, or thriving in entrepreneurship, you'll find connection, empowerment, and the tools to keep you moving forward. So grab your favorite drink, settle in, and get ready for stories that hit home and conversations that make a difference. Let's get real together. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me today on this episode of Real Chat with Kat. I am so excited to have you here with me, and oh my gosh, can you believe we're already halfway through the year? This is to me, is insane because Kristin and I were just talking about this, and I feel like I'm missing part of the year. I don't know if it's I skipped a whole month or what happened, but this is bananas. Anyway, I'm so excited to have you guys here with me today and to have Kristin on the podcast today, so thank you so much for joining me, Kristin.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here too. And I'm like you, I feel like I've missed a couple of months this year, already halfway through. Where's 2025 gone?
I'm my oldest one is 21. He just turned 21 in June. This is crazy. It is bananas when I think about that. Okay, anyway, so thank you so much, Kristin, for being a part of the podcast. I'm super excited to have this conversation. I know it's been a while since we got a chance to speak, but I love, what we kind of talked about in regards to your background and what that's led you to and some of the things that you're doing and the way that you're helping people as well. So do us all a favor then. Tell everybody who you are and what it is that you do.
Okay, well, I am Kristin Gravitt. I am a CPA and fractional CFO and a certified tax coach. So I work with business owners year round to help them stay on top of their business finances. They know where they're at throughout the year. They have a tax strategy put in place and also a strategy looking forward with their business finances. So you're never in a cash crunch and you don't ever have a big surprise when tax time comes around.
Because that's the worst thing to do. And I feel like those of us that, when we first got into the entrepreneurial space, had no clue what we were doing or what we were supposed to track or what we're supposed, maybe that was just me. At least with me, with being in the world of real estate, it wasn't talked about. You would think that that would have been part of the conversation. But I think that real estate for me is this really weird in between where it's technically you're a business owner, but nobody sees themselves as an entrepreneur. So then nobody has a clue what they're supposed to do. And we're just hoping that somebody's going to tell us because
Yes. Yes.
I'm sure you have clients like that.
I do. When they first come to me, and a lot of times they come during tax season because it's they've gone the whole year and they're like, oh my gosh, now I've got to get stuff together for the tax return. What in the world do I need to do to get this put together? How do I remember what I've done a year ago? And it's just a huge stress for the client. And that's why working throughout the year with somebody to help keep you on track is crucial because a lot of people will miss big deductions and end up overpaying in taxes by not knowing what's going on throughout the year.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. I know that one year we actually had that happen because I was starting out and I didn't have a clue what on earth I was doing, but I was trying to track certain things. And then I later found out oh, you could deduct that too? Well, crap, I didn't know that. I have a whole year of that. I'm I didn't know, simple things like trash service. If somebody
Yeah.
cuts your lawn, things like that you're wait, I can deduct that too? Okay. So it was really interesting. And I love what you're saying as far as, working with people throughout the year, because one of the first people that I hired, not that he's a bad person, But he just kind of was like, here's this piece of paper. These are some things you should probably be aware of and you should go track it. And like that was kind of it. And I could reach out and ask questions, but it wasn't really a conversation. It was just kind of like a yes, no, or like you should do this or you shouldn't. And then like that was the end. When I
Mhm.
changed over a couple of years ago, the gentleman that I have now, I adore, and I'm sure your people adore you because I can reach out to him at any point in time. I can send an email and say, hey, we're thinking about doing this, or we're talking about doing this. Would this be something we need to pay attention to? You know, my husband and I looked at opening a secondary LLC because we were looking at buying a commercial piece of property. And we are like, what does that even look like? How does that affect our taxes? What is the best way to do it? Do we need to start it this year? Should we wait till next year? Like, it was wonderful to have someone that was like, hey, let's go ahead and hop on a Zoom call. I'll answer all your questions. We'll figure out your scenario and then make sure that you're prepared for when you get to that space. Right.
Yeah.
And that has been like the biggest, not only lifesaver, but just like a sense of relief to know that you've got someone on your side that does understand what they're doing because us as entrepreneurs, right? We're like, we can do all the things. I can do everything. No, you do not want to do your taxes. Just FYI. It's
No.
not. Numbers and all of that, I don't care how great you are at it. That's not something you want to deal with. So having someone on your side, that's one of those delegation keys, right? We were talking about earlier, having a VA and how amazing they are. That's one of those delegations that you're like, yeah, just tell me what I need to do and I'll make sure I track it and then you can handle the rest.
Yes, that's how I am when it comes to marketing. I'm like, somebody else help me with that. That's not my wheelhouse. And as far as like the number side of things and tax, like you probably didn't start your business to be an expert in accounting and finance and tax. So definitely, if that's not your thing, that should be one of the first things that you delegate off. Even before you start your business, it's such a good idea to at least sit down with a CPA and even a lawyer and at
Ooh.
least have those two individuals picked out because they can be crucial to getting things set up and started the right way. Because if you don't, it's like a snowball effect and like things keep building up and getting bigger and bigger. And then when you find out that you have this big snowball, it's really hard and costly to go back and unwind it. So it's just best to get started from the beginning on the right foot.
Oh my gosh, yes. And I so agree with that. And the attorney, that's actually a really smart one as well. Didn't think about that one, right? Because you do have contracts, so you have ways that you want your LLC to be set up, or you should, right? And deciding in what you want to do and how you want things to play out. So that's super smart. And I love that you talk about this snowball effect because the first person that we hired thinking that they had everything under control, and because, I didn't feel like trying to Google and figure out what was going on because there's 10,000 things online that tell you 10,000 different ways. I just trusted in the person that I had. And when I swapped over and I was like, hey, would you mind going back through and just looking at these returns? Because I feel like there are things that might have been missed. We ended up having to amend 2 different years of our taxes. And oh my gosh, thank God I keep records of stuff, but having to go
Yeah.
back through the stuff and go back through your credit card statements and go back through like all these things that you had to find so that we had it so that we could be able to then amend the taxes and have everything sent back out to do it all over again. It's like, goodness gracious. Like, having someone that has your back and like you said, super smart to speak before you even get started. Because in my personal opinion, if you're having conversations with these people and you feel like they're very short with you, or the answers are they just like they know their business, and they're like to them, they're like, I don't understand why you don't get it. That gives you a sign to at least know, like, do I really want to work with this person or do I need to find someone else? Because if you have just gotten into your business, especially if you're like me, who has never run her own business, I came from the medical field. I had zero clue as to what I was supposed to be doing, what I was supposed to be tracking. I thought that, gas receipts and your mileage and all these things, like, no, 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 gas receipts aren't a thing anymore. Like, so there's all these things that you don't know about. And like you said, most of us, we probably didn't get into business to be an expert in that. So making sure that you have someone that's on your side that you feel like you can ask questions to and not
Hmm.
feel stupid about it. I mean, I still probably feel dumb for some of the things that I ask, but feel like you have someone that
Oh,
you know when you ask that question, right? That they're going to help you. They're going to help you understand. They're going to ask the questions to also make sure they understand your situation. That's a
yeah.
huge thing, right? And component you're working with anybody that you want to be on your side, right? This is doctors, lawyers, CP. I mean, anyone that you want on your side, you want to make sure you've got someone that's actually willing to listen, but then also ask the right questions to make sure that they understand you and your situation.
Yeah. So, I have another CPA that works with me and he helps out. And during tax season, um, like what we do when people bring in their stuff, like we go through and make sure that we're not missing anything. So he was like, you go into so much detail with asking questions and seeing like what's missing with your clients. He said he's worked with other firms where they take just what they're given and prepare a tax return. They don't ask and come back and try to
Yeah.
look through things. So something to look out for with who you're working with now is if you give them your stuff to do your taxes and they don't come back with any questions for you, that could be a red flag that maybe they're just preparing with what you have given them. You want to have somebody
Hmm.
on your side that's really like looking at what you have, what you've had in the past, and making sure that you're getting all the deductions that you can get.
Yeah.
We start out with working with our clients by doing a full-on accounting and tax return review where we go into we deep dive into your accounting software and then the past 3 years tax returns because we can go back 3 years
Oh,
and
wow. Okay.
and get refunds for things that are missed. So that's um, really huge
Ooh.
to make sure that you haven't missed anything big in the past.
That's super smart. I love that you do that. It's okay. So we got to take a step back real quick because I got to understand, like, how did you even get into wanting to do taxes or numbers or any of that stuff? Like, what is the backstory of all of this? Because I don't feel like, and maybe I'm wrong, right? I'm sure there's some people that are like, I want to be an accountant, and they just like know that that's what they want to do or that's what they're wanting to get into. But like, what is your story then of how you got into this space of running your own company and not just working for another firm and then deciding this is how you wanted to provide value to people?
Yeah. Okay, so how I got into accounting was in college, I was an international business major. Well, first I wanted to be a midwife, but then I knew I couldn't stand blood. So I was like, that's
That one's
business.
out.
So I was an international business major and took my very first accounting class, and it felt like everything like putting pieces of a puzzle together. And I just really liked how, um, like you were putting a puzzle together and then you would have like the balance sheet and the income statement. I just really loved all of that. And I feel like numbers don't lie to you. So, um, I
So I've
decided
heard.
to switch my major to accounting. And when I graduated, I worked for a really small firm. It was just me and the owner. And I worked with her for a while and got my CPA license. And then I went and did my time at the Big Four, one of the Big Four accounting firms, and ended up coming back and working for the Gail, the first lady that I worked with before. And we were a very traditional firm. We had clients where they would come to us during tax season. We would do their accounting for them then. So it was like a whole year had been gone.
Oh,
We would do
wow.
their accounting for them just to get their tax return prepared. I was like, this is not really helping. I mean, yeah, we're helping the client a little bit, but not really providing value for them throughout the year. Like they're running their business through their bank account about what is in their bank, or it may be like they have a few spreadsheets, but they're doing it
Hmm.
themselves. And they don't know what they're going to owe in tax until tax time. So I was like, this is, you know, it's not really fulfilling me. I really want to work closely with people year round. Um, so I worked with Gail for a while, and then we had another partner, and we all ended up going our separate ways in 2001. So I started my own business. I took my clients and started my own, and have converted it now into more of a consulting and partnership with the clients that I work for.
Oh, wow. Okay, awesome. I didn't realize it had been, you said 2001?
Hmm. Yeah.
Okay, that's awesome. Okay. I love that you took that. And I've met so many people, and what's funny is years ago, really long time ago, I worked for a company that actually sold the tax software to CPAs and different people. And it was really interesting how many of them, like, you literally could only catch them during tax season. And then if you
Hmm.
needed anything else or needed to have a conversation or were trying to get them set up, like nothing. It was like crickets for the rest of the year. Not saying that's a bad thing. You guys do whatever you like to do. But I do love this more of, how can I help you? How can we go through things and making sure that we're getting the most out of it? Because I don't know if anybody else feels this way, but taxes and all that stuff is so overwhelming and confusing that even when I get my tax stuff to sign, I'm like, hold on. So why is this? And what does this mean? And why did this percentage go up? Like I have so many questions because when I look at it, to me, it just looks like some mathematical genius stuff that's maybe that's just me. I'm also not a math person either. That was not my favorite subject.
Really, like you're interpreting law, so like it is hard to understand because it can be gray. You're like, in like a way that you
Very
read it, it
gray.
can sound differently based on how you interpret it. So it's very gray. Like a lot of places in the tax law are very gray, and there's exceptions to the rules, and there's exceptions to this, and it's like, wait a minute, what?
I feel like there's an exception to everything, and then that means there's a loophole, and I'm like, I can't play the loophole game of figuring all this stuff out. Like it
Yeah,
overwhelms me and it confuses me. Now my husband can sit down a little bit more, and he's like, well, but this does this, and I'm like, I don't see it. I don't. And he's like, really? I'm like, yeah, I don't. No, English was my English and biology. I enjoyed those subjects.
yeah,
I made it through math. I didn't fail it, but math was not like I did math because I had to do math. I think algebra was the only thing I enjoyed, and that's because it had formulas. And I was like, ooh, plug and play. I can
yeah.
do this.
Yes.
I probably just outdated myself. That's fine. It's okay. So,
No.
okay. It's okay. So, okay, when we think of, hiring like a CPA or a tax person, what is your suggestion of things to look out for? Maybe you've got like a startup business. So you're maybe not necessarily making a ton of money, but like you want to make sure that you're kind of aware and being legal in
Yeah.
what you're doing and stuff like that. But there's all kinds of places out here, right? There's TurboTax and they've got tax experts, and you got H&R Block, which I found out are not tax experts. It's just people they hire like at the beginning of the year and bring them in. And I was so mind blown when I heard that and found that. I was like, oh my God, I'm so glad I've never used them. Sorry, H&R Block, my bad. Nothing against you or your people, but like for when you're running a business and stuff, like you're not thinking about it, right? So you're just like, I need to get taxes done and I need someone to give me answers, and I can't afford, I think that one comes up a lot, right? I can't afford to
Yeah.
hire an actual CPA. Let me tell you, if you can't, you need to do it anyway because it is repeatably worth it to be able to do it. But like, what would be your suggestion? What are the things that people need to be aware of and look out for? Because everybody presents themselves as a tax expert. And then
Yeah.
you find out that a lot of these larger companies, they're not. They're just mass hiring people that probably have some type of accounting something, but all they're doing
Mhm.
basically is plugging your stuff into software and hoping that the software does its job for them to get your information. That was mind-blowing to me to find out.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Same with me. Um, because yeah, not all CPA firms are created equal, and they don't all, some of them are just there to prepare tax returns and that's all. I would recommend having a couple interviews with CPAs. Like even if you meet with them twice before you decide on hiring them, really sitting down, making sure that they're answering the questions that you have and not like just being like short. Make sure that you have like a good synergy with each other because you are going to be working closely. And I feel like your CPA knows you just as well as your doctor does because they really like get into
Yeah,
your
that's true. Yeah.
finances and they pretty much know a lot about you. So, just make sure they're available. Look at their website, do a little bit of research on them, and you know, I think just getting meetings together and meeting them and talking with them and seeing how like what your gut feeling feels about them. Make sure
That's
they're
very
real
much
people
true.
that really care about your business and not just plugging numbers in.
Yeah, definitely. And that was something that I learned back when I was doing the tax software. And I learned that at the time I didn't even know what a CPA was. I just knew accounting and people did taxes, right? Like that was all that I knew, but I didn't realize that a lot of the softwares that have been created is so that someone can just come in and like take the information given and put it into the system the way that it needs to be, and then the system kind of spits it out. Whereas when you start getting into owning your own business, there's so much more than just plugging numbers in and hoping that it's going to not make you pay a crap ton back in, right? Like
Yeah.
there's so many things into it. And then like I didn't realize that there's a difference between like sole proprietor and an S corp and all these different terms, and how an S corp can save you more money once you're making a certain amount, and that's what you want to make sure you've got to, so you're paying like all that stuff was so overwhelming because the only thing that I knew was you're supposed to have an LLC.
Yeah.
The end, right? Like that's what you start with. Um, but then nobody is really taught anything else to be able to understand the differences in that stuff. And like you said, once you kind of established in your business and making sure that you've got someone that asks those questions, is there anything that you would suggest that, if I was speaking with someone, is there any certain questions that you suggest are being asked that might be like the way somebody answers a question if they're speaking with someone, to kind of give them an indication of, I don't know, maybe their knowledge base, or I hate to say competency, but since they're not all created equal.
Yeah, I would really pay attention to like questions that they ask you back. Like you go in and you sit down with a CPA and you're like, "Hey, I have this business idea," and you spill it all out and you're like, I'm getting ready to get started. Well, if they're just like listening and answering your questions, yeah, they can give you some really good answers back. But if they are actually trying to dig in and find out what your goals are, what your plans are, why you're starting your business, where you want to take it, and then like giving you advice on how to get it started in the correct way and build it up.
Hmm. Yeah. Okay. That's a solid. No, that's really great advice, because now that I think about that with the gentleman that I first spoke with, I don't remember him asking a ton of questions in what it
Hmm.
is that I was doing. He also worked with like a lot of realtors at that time, and someone had sent me to him because they had been working with him, and so I'm guessing, he just assumed that, oh, well, she probably understands, right? And it wasn't that
Yeah.
he was bad. One thing that I did end up having an issue with, and I'd love your opinion on this as well, because again, I know that not all people are created equal, and I've interviewed people that are bookkeepers. But I had someone that told me, if you have an accountant and they're doing your taxes and then all of a sudden they decide to do bookkeeping, be aware, because sometimes when people start up that additional, they almost get lost in it, and then that's when their clients end up falling behind. That's exactly
Hmm.
what ended up happening with mine. He wasn't bad the first year, and I could get some questions from him if I emailed and stuff like that. But as soon as he opened up bookkeeping, he brought on three additional people. Then I couldn't get in touch with him. Most of the time, it was the other people that were answering questions, if I could even get an answer. And I kind of felt lost in the
Hmm.
paperwork when it came to getting my stuff done. And like
Yeah.
you were saying earlier, I did feel like I handed everything in, they put it in the system, and then they're like, okay, here you go, without actually checking and asking questions to see if they might be missing pieces. And I didn't know what to ask. So I just assumed, okay, well, if they looked at it and it all looks good,
Yeah.
phew, okay, that means I kept track of everything I was supposed to. I'm pretty proud of that, like,
Yeah. You're like, well, they know what they're doing. So if they see something missing, they'll ask me. But
right.
I've had a lot of people come in through the accounting and tax return review and seeing tons of stuff missed. Like one client had bought two trucks in his business, and they were supposed to have been fully depreciated in the year that he purchased them. These are expensive trucks, like $70,000 trucks. So it was
Wow.
$140,000 worth of a deduction that they missed, that they were told had been taken. And when I looked at it, I was like, no. So go back and fix it. So you really want to make sure that the person that you're working with is invested in you as much as you're invested in them.
What are some of the common things that you feel like people miss on a regular basis that like maybe we just don't think about? I know we talked about trash service, people mowing your lawn, which I thought was crazy. But is there anything that like you notice that to you is like kind of common that people we just don't we as individuals we aren't thinking about that, so we don't even realize that it is a deduction that we can put toward the business.
Yeah, well, definitely, like you were saying, home office expenses, any repairs and maintenance, lawn, pest control, tree removal. If you've had a tree removed in your yard, you can write part
What?
of that off. Um, I see a lot of people who don't take mileage because they're like, we didn't keep up with it. I'm like, that is a huge deduction. That's almost $1 now
Yes.
per mile driven that you can write off. So like mileage, there's cell phones because a lot of people just have cell phones now. You can write that off. Health insurance premiums. If you are
Mm.
paying your own health insurance premium, whether you're a sole proprietor, an S corporation, you can write those premiums off and get a huge deduction for those.
All right. Tree service. Isn't that
Yeah.
interesting? Do I have trees that need to be cut? No, just kidding.
Good.
That's I didn't know about that one. Okay, that's a new one. Pest control, that was one I learned about a couple of years ago, and I was like, wait, what? I can deduct that? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Because I always thought like, okay, it's just for in the office. And cell phone, that's a huge one because I think about that. I'm like, everything that I use my cell phone for, like, yeah, I talk with friends and family occasionally, but all my text messages are from clients and all of my communication is everything is done through that one specific thing. So that was a really interesting one to me as well to learn about. So,
You can
ooh, okay.
also you can also rent your house to your business 7 days out of the year. Well, it's got to be less than 14 days out of the year. So you can basically rent your house to host meetings in for the day. So like say you're
What?
an S corporation and you have like a planning day once per month or and you can rent your house to yourself at like the ongoing fair market value rate it would be if you were to rent like a conference room and then
Okay.
like expense that through your business and that's a deduction that you can take too.
Ooh, look, Kristen,
Um,
Kristen dropping some knowledge.
yeah, it's called the Augusta rule.
That is awesome because I have heard of I have some friends that they do quarterly business meetings and they
Mhm.
will go somewhere and so they can write the entire trip off so that they can do and that's what they do their business planning and stuff like that. They obviously have fun, but they focus on, what are we doing for the next quarter? What is it looking like for the end of the year and all this stuff. And that was the first time that ever heard of that one too. And I was like, wait, I can take trips and I can what? That was
Yeah.
something that my sister and I had to have a conversation with. One of my sisters is she owns her own business and she does transaction coordinating work for real estate agents. But she
Mhm.
would be traveling and doing like family vacations, or her and her husband would do a getaway. But half the time she's working. I'm like, girl, are you writing that stuff off? She was like, wait, why would I? I'm like, because you worked while you were on your trip. Like it was a huge conversation that we had, and it was like this mind-blowing, like, wait, I can write that off. Well, yeah, you're still working. Obviously, you're probably not writing the entire trip off, but you're still working. So if you end up spending a lot of time working while you're supposed to be vacationing, take that deduction. Like
Yeah, exactly.
there's so many little things that we as individuals, we just don't know about. And like you said about mileage, when I was in real estate, that was when I first realized that mileage is definitely a huge thing because you're
Yeah.
driving all over the place. And that was the first time that I actually paid for an app so that it would track my mileage. So I know there's like 10,000 of them out there. I was a huge fan of Everlance. To me, I just like the way that it looked and the way that it functioned. But I love it because I can just drive all over town. And then at the end of the
Yeah.
day, I come home and I swipe to the right if it was personal, and I swipe to the left if it's for my company. And to be able to just print that out at the end of the year and be like, oh, here's the mileage that I drove that was personal and as business, like that was a game changer. And I didn't realize how much of a difference that that could make until the first year that
Yeah.
I did it.
Big. QuickBooks has its own little mileage tracker too if you put the app
Oh,
on your phone.
yeah.
And then if you are um if you are buying your vehicle, you can write off the interest that you're paying on the loan.
Yes. Yes. That was another what was it? A business credit card. I got a business credit card last year so that every bit could go directly on there and be fed back in. And that's when my accountant was like, I need you to let me know the interest at the end of the year. And I was like, wait, what? And he was like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's considered a business expense. I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing.
Yeah.
I've learned so much. And one of the things that I did as well, one, because I wanted to be really organized, and also remember all the things I needed to track, was instead of doing a spreadsheet, I know some people love making spreadsheets. I hate trying to create spreadsheets. They fluster me. So I found one on Etsy. Not even kidding you guys. Etsy has everything. This is stupid. I found one specifically for your own business on there where you got a spreadsheet that's completely built out and it tracks every single month. It gives you a breakdown each quarter. It gave me a graph for the end of the year. I could see my expenses and my revenue. And all I had
Yeah.
to do was just fill in all of the things that I knew I wanted to write off, and then every month make sure I go in and track it. And I have utilized that thing for the last 3 years. I just make a new one each year.
Yeah.
And it cost me like 25 bucks. My accountant loves me for that because I can go, here's all my stuff, and he can actually see everything and not feel like it's a big mess or a blob. Because when I tried creating my own spreadsheet, I swear I was like, I don't know where this should go. And does this go here? And should I write it this way? And well, what if I did? Is this going to make sense to you? So just little
Have
tip
people
there,
who
you
give me a
guys.
spreadsheet and I'm like that one that they've created and they understand it perfectly. But when I look at it, I'm like, what in the world is what is this?
That's what happened with mine. And again, I'm not a huge fan of them anyway. I hate creating one. So trying to make one to begin with and make it make sense was so confusing. So just saying, cheat sheet, everybody. Unless you got your CPA who can give you something.
Yeah.
Etsy's got some really awesome ones. I found one specifically for that, and then I did a separate one for house expenses, so I could see the
Mhm.
difference, and then we'd be able to see all the house expenses and everything that we could write off. And that is literally what I turn into my guy every year. And he's like, this is
Yeah.
wonderful. It's so organized. I'm like, oh, thank you. I didn't do anything. But at least he
But
doesn't hate me for me going, here's all my receipts. Here's my bank statements. Now, can you just take it apart and figure it out?
yeah, yes. We actually have a really good spreadsheet for businesses. And it's in our membership portal, but I also have it available. It helps do projections and budgeting, and it does like you put in your
Ooh.
projections for the year and then you put in your actual, and then it compares like where you're at throughout the year. So it's easy to like look and see where you need to tweak and adjust things, and then you can see like high months and low months and times when you're going to be slow and you might have cash crunches. Um,
Ooh, I love that,
yeah,
Kristen.
I made it, but we are working with a spreadsheet expert, and she's going to come in and make it a little more user friendly because, like, I know how to use it because I made it. She's going to make it so much more simplified, but still do the same thing. So,
Okay, that is awesome. Speaking of that too, I want you to touch base on this real quick, and then we'll make sure at the end that you give the additional information. But I know that you have this membership that you've
mhm.
launched. I'd love for you to tell everybody about this because I think this is phenomenal. This is not something that a lot of CPAs are doing. So this is to me, this is like super cool. Uh,
Yeah. So you mentioned earlier, and like we were talking about businesses who are just getting started, they really can't afford to have a bookkeeper or CPA, so they're still doing it themselves, or they've been, at it for a couple of years, still don't really feel like they can hire somebody on to help on that side of things, and they're just like
hmm
not getting to the next level. So my membership is once per month. We have a live teaching where we come in, or I come in and teach a topic based off of like where we're at in the year, what you should be doing in your business, kind of hold you accountable to keep up with your accounting, teach you how to do it, how to understand it on a level that, just getting started. So you don't have to be an expert to do it, but it kind of takes the intimidation away from it because we're
Yes.
doing it together and you have somebody walking you through it. And then once per month, we have a live Q&A for an hour where you can just come in, you can bring your QuickBooks, you can show me what's going on, ask me any questions that you have that have been on your mind. So you pretty much have access to a CPA twice per month in my membership. And then if you can't make it to the live classes, or if you've just started, there's a whole bank in the membership vault of classes that you can go back and watch.
That is
And
so awesome.
you have access to the spreadsheet I was talking about and checklists, and really want to make sure people are like off on a good start, because having a really good financial foundation in your business from the start is huge, and it can really help you get to the next level, and make sure you're paying yourself and not working for free. And when tax season comes around, you will be ready to just hand your stuff over to your CPA and not feel like that big stress. And
Yeah.
beginning of the year, all you're doing is focused on trying to getting your taxes done, when you could really just be starting off the year with to reach your goals and really working on your business, instead of going back a year and trying to figure out what you did.
Oh, because yeah, that is not fun. And if you did it like I did the first year in real estate, where like everything kind of came out of my checking account, and
Hmm.
people were like, "Well, but it should come out of your business." And I'm like, "Well, why does that matter? Like it just goes in here, right? Like just things that you don't think about." So I love that you have this membership option. I think it's a really unique way for people to get in, get an idea, and feel like you said, right? Like it's not as scary as you think it is, and you're going to feel a lot more prepared come tax season. Because the worst
Yeah.
thing that you can do is keep pushing it off and pushing it off and pushing it off because you don't want to do it. And then when tax season gets here, you have to spend so much time going back through things, trying to find receipts, reading through your bank statements for the last 12 months. Like I have had to do that before. That is the
Mhm.
most stress-inducing time
Yeah.
ever. Like it was so stressful. And then I was like, oh my God, did I miss something? Did I catch all the things? I was scrolling through that kind of fast. Did I make sure that I got that? And then, of course, there were a lot of things that I missed because I didn't have anyone I could really ask questions to either. So I think this membership option for anybody that's newer in your business, or even if you've been in the business for a little bit, but like maybe you haven't hired someone or you're getting to the point where you are, this is a phenomenal way to get questions answered, to have
Yeah.
someone that has your back, and to make sure that you're moving in a right direction. Because, like you said, you only have so much time to be able to go back to fix those things if you need to. And that's a whole nother pain in the butt all in itself, just in my
Yeah.
personal
We
opinion.
we actually have two tiers of the membership. So the first tier is just the classes and the Q&A, and then we have a second tier where you actually get to meet with me twice per year, where we look at your books and
Oh,
make sure everything
nice.
looks good. And then after we review, we'll come in and tell you what we found, how to correct it. And then also, if you have any questions and you want one-on-one time, we have that option as well.
Oh my gosh, that makes it even better. Okay, so I expect everybody to be getting into Kristen's membership. Just FYI. No, that's phenomenal. I love that. That makes so much sense. Oh my gosh, Kristen, thank you so much. I feel like
Yeah.
this is definitely not the conversation that people want to have. And at the same time, we're halfway through the year. So if you haven't done anything with your taxes, guess what? You should be figuring that out because we're halfway
Do
through the
it
year.
now. And the cost of the membership is a business expense, so you can put that as a deduction.
Ta-da! See? You guys are going to learn all kinds of deductions and things like that. Now, this is wonderful, Chris. And I think that a lot of us need to understand that, even for us that, are thinking of doing something maybe even part-time. Maybe if you're working for like Mary Kay or Arbonne or Avon,
Mhm.
like any of those, that's still a business. That means there's still business expenses, there's still write-offs. Even if you're working a full-time job, you still need to know what those deductions and those things are so that you're prepared when tax season comes, right? So thank you
Yeah,
so much for all of your knowledge because, again, I don't think
absolutely.
that we talk about this enough. We just kind of expect the people that are certified to take care of it for us. And there are so many pieces and components that can be missed. And I think the membership is just like a really cool option for people to be able to like dip their toes in the water and kind of start to see that it's not as big of a monster as we think it is. So, as we come to a close, then, Kristen, do you have anything that you would like to leave the audience with? A quote, a piece of advice, anything like that?
Yes. I would say don't be afraid to, a lot of people are very intimidated by the financial part of their business. Please don't avoid it. Don't lose sleep over it. If you haven't gotten started for the year, it's not too late. Get started now. Get everything put together from what you've had from the beginning of the year to now, and then you can plan out the rest of the year and really work towards reaching your goals. Don't go at it blindly.
Don't go at it blindly, definitely. But Kristin, tell
Don't
everybody.
seat your pants. Take control.
Right. Especially when it comes to your money. We want to keep it as much as we can.
Yeah.
So do us all a favor then, Kristin, tell everybody where can they find you? How can they connect with you? And then how can they sign up for your membership?
Okay, awesome. So you can find me. I have a website. It's kristingravitt.com. And then I also have Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. So if you just look up Kristin Gravitt, you should be able to find me there. And you can sign up for my membership on my website. So if you go to the website, you can find a link to sign up there. And then I think you'll probably post the link in the show notes, or
Yes.
do you have that? Yeah. Okay.
Yes, we'll make sure. We're going to have all that information in the show notes. We'll make it super simple for you guys to find Kristin and connect with her, and also have the information for her membership. Oh, you are offering them for the
Yes,
membership.
the first month free if you want to come in and try it out and see how you like it. And if you like it, you can stick around. If not, you can just cancel at any time. And then also, if you're well into your business and you need someone to take a look at your finances and your tax returns just to make sure everything looks good, we do offer that accounting and tax return review service as well. So you just want to if you had a rocky tax season and you were very surprised at your tax bill and want to have a second set of eyes on it, we do that too.
Yes, I love it. And then, of course, we'll have like I said, we'll have all that information in the show notes. We'll make it super easy for you guys to connect with Kristin and find all of her information. Definitely make sure that you have someone on your side when it comes to something like this. This is very important. So, Kristin, thank you so much for being a part of the podcast today. I can't thank you enough.
Well, thank you. It has been a lot of fun chatting with you today. So
Oh,
thank you.
thank you. You're so welcome. And to everybody else out there, don't forget, we're now halfway through 2025. If you have not started or have barely started on your taxes and things like that, this is your sign. This is your smack in the face to remind you that this is very important. Do not wait until the last minute. You don't want to get stuck with someone who doesn't have your best interest at heart when it comes to your hard-earned money. So find someone that's on your side, jump into Kristin's membership, get with her for a consultation so you can have someone go over your stuff. Let me tell you, when I did that a couple years ago, it was an absolute lifesaver, and I learned so much, and now I feel so much more prepared moving forward as my business continues to grow. So make sure you've got somebody on your side as you move forward. Until next time, don't forget, do one thing positive for someone each and every day and see the difference that it makes in your life. So I'll catch you later. Thank you so much for tuning in to Real Chat with Kat today, where real stories meet real solutions. If you love today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review on Apple, and share this with someone who may also need to hear this as well. Let's also keep the conversation going. Follow me on socials at The Lotus Effect, connect with our incredible guests, and remember, you are never alone. Your story matters, and you have the ability and the power to rewrite it. You always have a choice. Until next time, stay strong, stay inspired, and keep showing up as the incredible, unstoppable